I am from New York, grew up in New Jersey, so I am an East Coaster at heart.
So always a singer?
No,
How did it start?
I started with piano, and I was very shy, so it was perfect for me to do something musical, but on my own and where no one was watching. And then I got into choirs and classical music. My grandmother was a classical singer in Philly
Wow.
on the radio in the 40s.
Okay.
And we used to practice together, and she would prepare me for auditions and things like that. And then I got into jazz very late, around 15, 16.
Wow.
But I'm still working on my stage fright.
You heard a lot of jazz. Did you hear a lot? Did they play a lot of jazz in the house when you were growing up?
No, it was really a late development and a late find for me, and it was something that I found on my own with a friend. And after that, after 16, I was hooked. I mean, I was going to every jazz club as many nights as I could afford, and it was over.
Schooling, did you go to any of like the creative arts schools or something like that on the East Coast?
I did go to SUNY Purchase, to their music conservatory, and John Faddis was on faculty, who was Dizzy Gillespie's protege. Todd Kuhlman, who was James Moody's bass player. Some really heavy guys in the scene that were really good to us as far as not only teaching us, but having us up on stage when they were playing in town, and really including us in the community right away.
So do you still consider yourself a piano player singer, or are you strictly singing now?
I play at home, through classical music, and then I can read through chord charts, but I wouldn't feel comfortable sitting in on a gig.
You no?
No. I'm working on it.
Okay, so eventually. Okay,
Eventually.
a Diana crawl kind of thing, or?
I hope so.
You started into jazz late, so what other types of music do you listen to now? I mean, like, so if you're not listening to jazz, what are you listening to?
I love hip hop. I'm a big Tribe Called Quest fan, and I just love East Coast hip hop. Biggie, Nas, and everything. I like classical music. I always like to go see the Philharmonic or the Symphony whenever they have cheap seats on Wednesdays. I love salsa and Afro-Cuban music and Brazilian Forró.
Any thoughts in the future of doing a genre that's not what you're currently doing?
Yes.
And what would that be?
I'd love to do a Brazilian record. And I've always wanted to do a strings record. That's on my bucket list. And really anything that feels good, I would always be up to do. I don't want to limit myself to anything, because I always react to whatever feels good. So anything that came up in the future, I would be down for. But a Brazilian record is definitely in the near future.
Since you came to jazz so late, if you had a chance to speak to your 5 to 10 favorite jazz artists that you haven't had a chance to speak to, who would they be?
Dinah Washington would be number one.
And why?
Well, we're both Virgos.
Okay.
And she was such a sassy, ballsy woman, but very sensitive, very loving. She always treated her guys like family. And I really want to build a network like that and a family community with the musicians that I work with. But she was always self-conscious, which people didn't realize. She had such a presence and such a confidence to her on stage, but off stage she was conscious of her weight and very shy. And that was always intriguing to me, that I'd want to find out who the real Dyna was. And I'd love to talk to Joe Williams.
Wow, the voice.
I missed Etta Jones by this much.
Wow.
We were supposed to be on a gig together, and she got sick, and I had to take over for the tunes that she was going to sing, and she passed shortly thereafter. But her records with Houston Person are some of my favorite albums. So she'd be on the list. And Nina Simone. And I think, and Frank.
Frank had swag.
Frank, I mean, he's so dapper, he is so charming, and all of the greatest musicians commented on his phrasing. Miles Davis was impressed with his phrasing, and the fact that he could do circular breathing was
That I didn't know.
very impressive to me. Yeah.
I remember hearing in your set last night, you said you were extremely shy.
Yeah.
And I find that surprising for somebody that's a former athlete to be shy. So how did you get past your shyness?
I didn't.
So you're faking it now?
I'm still working on it. I'm still a little shy, but when I played ball, I would be so nervous. I would just be sick to my stomach, and I think that's probably why one of the reasons I stopped playing competitively. And with singing, I think I wanted everything to be perfect, and from that mentality made me even more nervous. Because now I realize with jazz, it's never perfect, and I think that's what makes it beautiful.
There's beauty in the imperfection.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm learning to embrace that and just be in the moment. And I'm always remembering something that John Clayton told me. He said whenever we're playing or whenever you make a record, it is a snapshot of who and where you are in the moment right now. So it's never going to be good or bad. It's just, it is what it is. And that is always going to be beautiful.
That's true.
So he said, as long as you're honest, and as long as you're playing with soul and with your heart, it's always going to be beautiful.